They told us that our God was not God, yet it was only one God, it was the same God that we were worshipping. So they told us that that was witchcraft, and they took it away. Europeans came, complete with slavery and complete with religion, and told us that if you wanted God to receive you in heaven, you must have a Christian name called John or Jane or Patrick or Patricia. So they took away our names. They came and told us that our ways, all our ways, were heathen, and they destroyed them. They came and told us that our languages were not good, and that we must speak their tongue, and we continue to speak their tongue and look down upon our own tongues. The culture, the way our foods were also considered to be below what was expected. Everything. Our style of dressing. If there is a single thing that contributed to the dehumanization of the African peoples, it was slavery and slave trade. If you go to other parts of the world where the African diaspora is, to the United States of America, to the Caribbean, it is now that they are struggling through DNA and science to find out, where did I come from? You did not even know where you came from.
At the end of this video, you'll be shocked to understand what they used religion to do in Africa. Let's watch together.
And if you look at Alex Haley's dramatization of this phenomena in the film that is called Roots, where he talks about Kunte, who was taken away from Jufre village in the Gambia, you see, even in the dramatization, how traumatizing it was, how painful it was, how the umbilical cord between you and your people was cut. The impact was huge, and the cultural impact is alive and well today. You know, there's a saying in the Kiswahili language that he or she who does not have culture is a slave. And I think the cultural dislocation is one of the most devastating impacts that slavery and slave trade have had on the continent of Africa. And this is documented, and it is something that has led to a miseducation as a people. It has led to this low self-esteem that people have, and the impact is debilitating and dehumanizing and humiliating at once. In Greek history, there is something called the Trojan horse. When the enslaver came, it all looked very innocent. And one of the things that you see across Africa, which is a good attribute, but which is part of the African weakness, we welcome everybody. We believe that everybody has good intentions. And because of that inclination of the African to welcome everybody and anybody without questioning, we have paid dearly for it.
We have paid dearly.
We as Africans have lost our land because we trusted too much. We Africans have lost our culture because we trusted too much. We have lost and continue to lose our resources because we trust too much. But those who come to Africa, 9 out of 10 times know what they want. So they come with fists of iron, clothed in velvet, and we only realize it too late. So it was not our fault. It is never our fault to be good. It was their fault that they abused our trust. But we also have a duty. Having been abused in that manner, having been dehumanized in that manner, the time is now for the scales on our eyes to fall. The time is now for the wax in our ears to melt, so that even when we embrace people and accept them as visitors, we must always do so in the knowledge that not that which looks good is always good. There is an English saying, all that glitters is not gold. So we must know that sometimes bronze pretends to be gold. It is our duty to discover that. You know, we don't talk about Congo as we should. When Leopold of the Belgians went to Congo, he found a society that was organized in the middle of one of the richest places God ever created. And he claimed Congo as his personal property. This we never say. Initially, what is now Congo, which later became a colony of Belgium, was claimed by King Leopold II of Belgium as his personal property. And at that time, of course, they were doing many things, including rubber. And it is not said, as we should, that King Leopold killed no less than 13 million Congolese. Twice the number of those who were killed in the Holocaust. He did that. And he discovered one thing, that in order to subdue the Congolese, you must divide them. You must tell them you are the Bangala, you are the Baluba, you are the Bakongo. So he sowed the seeds of discord amongst them. And those seeds have remained alive today. So from slavery to the Berlin Conference, where they now agreed to divide the continent of Africa, Congo was debilitated. Remember that what we now call the Democratic Republic of Congo is the size of the entire Western Europe. From Portugal to Austria in terms of size. And has resources which some have described as scandalous. That how could God in his divine wisdom put so many things in a single place? If it is the forest, they are there. If it is minerals, they are there. But slavery and slave trade ensured that those people were dehumanized, those people were disorganized, and they remain disorganized even as I speak. Because disorganization allows for exploitation. And that exploitation is going on as I speak. As I speak, the busiest airspace in the continent of Africa is Eastern Congo, the continuation of slavery and suffering because European powers continue to exploit that place. And there is modern day slavery in that part. The mine workers are modern day slaves. They may receive wages, but that is just for purposes of keeping them alive, that they may continue to work the mines. And that is why you saw Congo also produce some spiritualists who wanted to protest against all these. Donna Beatrice, Kimbavita, Simon Kimbangu came out of that environment saying, this slavery, and you've enslaved us twice. You've enslaved us through religion, you've enslaved us physically, you've enslaved us through colonization. We must have a new awakening. So Congo is a painful place to watch. So rich, yet so poor. There is that debate that, as we know, when the Portuguese came for the first time in the 14th or to the 15th century, the relationship was one of equals. And the Bakongo Empire was organized, and there were these Portuguese who were looking for, as I've said, gold, and they were looking for spice and any other thing. The Bakongo were already an organized empire, and they had relationship. They had wars with other communities. They had war with the Baluba and other communities, and they had prisoners. And of course, they did not know what to do with them. So that is how they started using them as porters to take things to the coast. And that is how you see slavery started emerging in that particular and redefining the relationship. And when, of course, they were no longer slaves who were obtained through war, people started raiding for slaves. You now were raiding other communities for purposes of enslaving them. So while one can say that there was a contribution by elements within the African communities, the upscaling of slavery to the level that then became known as the transatlantic trade and the triangle is one for which the European powers must be blamed, because having recognized this, that this was improper, they perpetuated it. So it is true to say that there were elements within the African communities who participated quite intimately in slave trade, and indeed African chiefs have apologized in this regard. They have said, we made a contribution to this particular process, but if you want to apportion blame, our blame cannot be more than 20%. The blame must be largely to the European powers who now made it into a science, if you may. The European powers converted what was a low-level activity within the continent of Africa and converted into a science. And that science is a science which visited and continues to visit untold pain to the African peoples. When one is talking about slavery, it's also important to say that while we have this marker called the 15th century as the beginning of slavery as we know it, these are dates which keep their moving target. On the western coast of Africa, it is documented that it started in earnest in the 15th century. But it must be remembered, as we said a little earlier, that when we talk about slavery, it is something that started many years before, and it is true that some of aspects of slavery were not even documented. And slavery on the eastern coast, it is now documented that it may have started as early as AD 650. AD 650. It must have started even much earlier than that. So when we talk about the history of slavery, we must also remember that there are a lot of historical gaps in terms of documentation. But the ones that we now talk about are the ones that are documented and the ones that are more debilitating, and the ones whose effect was a lot more vicious. That is why we mention them. And because the European enslavers and those who later became abolitionists were documenting a lot better than everybody else, we forget those which were not documented. But the truth be told, slavery was alive and well in eastern part of Africa, courtesy of Arabs and those who their acolytes within the African communities who were working with them to ensure that. There was a man who was called Tipu Tip, and the Tipu Tip came out of the gun that he was using, who was running riot across what is now Tanzania and was enslaving people. And there was a man called Said Bagash, who came from the Omani Arabs, who was one of the lead in the latter days of slavery. Remember that slavery in its former sense in Zanzibar was until 1960. Until 1960, despite the fact that slavery had been abolished, slavery was continuing in Zanzibar until the revolution in 1964. So when we say that slavery was abolished, when we say that slavery was abolished or that slave trade was abolished, that was the formal pronouncement that was done. But when you look at the history of abolition when we were in school, we were told about George Wilberforce, who was himself a parliamentarian. And when he was talking about abolition, he even said that he does not believe in the immediate emancipation of the slave, that they must be trained to be free. When Abraham Lincoln is abolishing slavery in 1863, we know that slavery continued long after that. So slavery is not something that is easy to discuss as having started and stopped. It is not easy to say that slave trade started and stopped. I believe that like the chameleon, slavery has only changed color over the years. Changed color, but not character.
This video is to make you understand how the slavers came into Africa to make us believe that our way of life is evil, our culture is evil, our spirituality is evil. They convinced us to believe that we worship a lesser God, and they worshipped the Almighty God. That our names were not good. We cannot with our names go to heaven. That is the kind of mentality they cultivated in us. That is the kind of mentality they cultivated in us. It is so sad. King Leopold caused more than 3 million people to lose their lives in Congo. And you still don't understand. You don't know what these people did to us. And when we are preaching about emancipation, when we are preaching about African independence, you are still sleeping. You still don't understand the implication. I've always said this. If Africa must unite, if Africa must rise, the time is now. And I will continue posting these videos for you to get to understand what really happened on the African continent. Because they've eradicated history in schools. They don't want you to know. But we are here to let you know. Keep liking and sharing so that other Africans can come across this video and learn. There are a lot of hidden secrets that we are going to keep exposing on this page. Like and share.